somehow get lost on the drive I've made 1,000 times.
End up in another state.
Another state and into someone's home.
Non-apologetic
Nonsense.
All right, so this story picks up right after the first one ends, okay? My license is suspended from the first DWI, right? I don't even remember how many years, but it's gone, right? So my buddy has a birthday. We go out drinking, right? So he's driving. So we go out to like OK Bar, I think. And by the time we leave, we're both just falling over, right? So it became that real awful game of who's less hammered to drive right now, right? So in this case, that was me. So we're headed back to his house. Everything's fine. I ran off in the ditch a little bit, but like we made it there. You know what I mean? So we get back and we start drinking a little bit more. And then he passes out. And by passes out, I mean passes out on his concrete floor of the garage like this, right? So his wife's inside the house and I start getting that itch. I'm like, I want to go home. And so I came up with a plan of where I was going to, this is his vehicle, you know. I was going to take his vehicle and drive 10 minutes to my house. And then if people got mad at me, so what? I'll bring the vehicle back tomorrow, whatever. It did not go to plan, okay? So I go to leave. And bear in mind, he's passed out right next to the car. And I check him, you know, as a good friend would, and then make sure he's not, like, in the way. And then I start the vehicle, and I look in the side mirror, and I can't see him. And I'm like, better double check. Sure enough, I go out there, and I guess when the vehicle started, he had rolled over and put his arm right in the pathway of the wheel.
Ooh.
And I don't know if I've even ever told him this, but I grab his arm, and I put it out of the way and roll him over, and then hurriedly back up the vehicle and get out of the drive, okay? So I'm headed home, and I'm taking back roads, which I've done hundreds of times, right? Somehow or another, I get lost on the way to my house, right? Where I've lived forever. So at this point, his wife is onto my scheme, and she's calling me, and she's pissed. And rightfully so, right? So she calls his mom and has her come pick her up, and they start driving to my house. And they're calling and calling, where are you? I tell them I'm on my way. And then all of a sudden, they're already at my house. And I've been on the road for like 45 minutes, and I'm still not home. And I don't know where I am, okay? And the way the laws are, or at least used to be in Missouri, is, bear in mind, I was in the wrong for driving drunk. I'm not saying anything about it. But the way it's written, if I were to pull over and be like, I just can't do this, and take a couple hours and sleep, and a cop comes up behind me, I get the same DWI charges if I'm actively driving down the road. So I knew that, and I was like, you know, it puts you in a system where you might as well risk it because you're going to get the same charge.
Right.
So I did just that. She's calling, she's mad, rightfully so, and I'm driving down the road, and I'm going to tell this in what I remember at that point, and then later on during the trial, I start remembering other things, right? So all of a sudden, I'm no longer in a vehicle. I'm walking down the side of the road, just driving, and then just cut to. I'm walking down the side of the road, okay? And I am fucked up. My head is split open to the white meat. You know, my arm is ripped all the way open. I'm walking like this. I'm on a dark back road. I think I might know where I'm at, but I'm not sure. All of a sudden, like in a freaking horror movie, a truck pulls up behind me, and they got like 15 lights on the top, like tow truck type stuff, right? So I hear a dude yell, "Stop!" And I'm like, no, I don't know you, you know? And then I see multiple dudes get out of the vehicle. And at this point, I'm walking backwards. You know, they're in front of me. And I'm like, okay, my plan, I'm going to spin around. I'm taking off through this field. I'm pretty sure I'm somewhere around Maverick Road. I'll find my way home. As I go to spin around, I trip over my feet and I fall over, right? Just right on my face. So as soon as I roll back over to get up, there's a dude just coming on top of me, right? And just giving me 1-4. And then I find out later it was the son, and then the father jumps on top of me as well, right? And I'm just ragdolled. I can't even attempt to defend. I'm just laying there getting the shit house beat out of me. Cops pull up after like 6 minutes of this, you know. They were taking turns and getting tired and catching their breath and coming back at me.
Or you have at him, Jim.
Yeah, more or less. That's exactly what it was. Police pull up. And for the first time, I'm like, thank God, you know. And then the cop, he gets out and he's like, hey, Jimbo. He's like, hey, Ronald, you know, or whatever. The cop grabs a hold of me, spins me around, pulls me up, spins me around, and slaps cuffs on me. Like he had practiced this in the mirror, and he did a good job. Throw me in the back of the cop car, okay? I didn't know. I was in Kansas, so I'd crossed state lines at some point during my excursion, okay? In Kansas, even at where we're sitting right now, which is pretty close to where I was trying to go to, you know, Kansas is a good 20 to 30-minute drive. So I pass out in the back of the cop car, and I wake up covered in puke at the police station. I mean, I had projectile vomited all over that glass that separates us. And I remember I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll help clean it up, you know. So they throw me in a cell. I wake up the next morning and I don't have any memory of any of this, okay? All I know is I guess I refused medical treatment and I'm split open. I'm like blood had dried and I was stuck to the blankets and no one would tell me anything. But they had a big dry erase board, and it said, Cox, DWI resulting in harm accident. And I'm like, holy shit. Did I just kill someone? So I'm in there for weeks, you know, more or less. And so I wind up getting out, and the first thing I had to do was call my buddy, you know, and say, hey, I know my vehicle's not worth what your vehicle is. I totaled the vehicle. That goes without saying.
Right.
So I sign over my vehicle to him that day, you know. And so trial starts, right? This winds up being a 6-week trial. It was like full jury. It was like something out of TV, right? I'm facing 7 years. So I get an attorney, and the attorney, we can get into this later on, he's a criminal himself. He winds up doing time not long after this. So he tried using every, like, Donald Trumpian, you know, skewing of the law to try to get me out. But they had a sworn statement putting me behind the vehicle from someone. So it kept coming back to that. Like everything he tried, the judge would be like, no, that's not admissible. No, we have proof. He was driving. There's no knock it off, right? And the family of the people I had hit were there every day. And I'd like walk by the dude and he'd be like, you're going to fucking die. So his story of what happened was apparently I was on some sort of old overpass and I passed out and I go off like huge drop, right? And I keep driving. I'm passed out at this point, I guess. And I have my arm outside the window and I hit a barbed wire fence and go through it. And that's what ripped my arm open. So I guess that barbed wire fence was right into the pasture, his yard. So he claims I hit a mower, I hit a tiller, I hit an awning, then I hit his porch, and when I hit his porch, it pushed his porch into his house. Okay? So they're seeking like $50,000 in restitution. Okay? So later on, I get a memory of me waking up behind the driver's seat of the vehicle in all dark and hearing a woman screaming. And at that point, I guess my drunk ass made the decision. I don't know what's happened, but I'm getting the flock out of here. And then I black out again and I come to on the road, right? So we have this big 6-week trial. And what was good, though, or bad, depending on how you look at it, the states didn't talk to each other. So even though it was my second DWI, I was tried as the first offender in Kansas. So I was able to get off, and I had to look this up. It's been so long. It was like 60 days jail time minus what I'd already spent in there. I got 5 years probation and 5 years license revoked for, right? And if you're revoked in one state, you're revoked in all states. I wind up having to pay $15,000 in restitution at $250 a week to these people. Yeah, so I wind up skirting huge jail time, but that was only because we had a lawyer who would do anything and everything to get through it. But this right here, and I'm embarrassed to say, but this is the worst thing I've ever done to anyone. You know, you've known me for a very long time. I've never fucked my friend's girlfriend. I've never stole money from a friend, you know. But I did total his car, you know, and this was my best friend. And I did, you know, in certain ways that hurt his relationship. Now, they're still together. She's a good woman. I talked to her like 3 days ago, you know. But nonetheless, you know, I'm sure he was put in the awkward position where he couldn't even bring up my name. See, and it's same with his family. Because, see, growing up, I was always the scapegoat. And I put myself in that position. Where, like, if we both did something stupid, I'd like, no, that was just me. It's just me. I'm the shitbag. You know what I mean? Hate me. He's great, you know? So this was, like, the final straw for his family. You know, they're like, we're done with him. He's no good. Da-da-da-da-da, you know? But at the same point in time, this is the worst thing I've ever done to myself. I had, about a month after this, I was due to go to the Art Institute of Nashville. You know, I had like an 80% scholarship for audio production. I already had my housing. I already had the loans for the remainder. Like, I had everything. I was good to go. But I had a morality clause in that. And they found out about everything, revoked my scholarship, never even saw the school, you know. Even now, me trying to be a pilot, this DWI, because it resulted in an accident. They let you be a pilot with a DWI, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Because it resulted in an accident, you know, that pretty well takes that away. And I don't want to spoil part 3, but this comes up in a future trial, and this killed my advancement in life. It literally grounded me for a decade. I had to give up the only possession I had at that time, which was my car. So this is the worst thing I've ever done to someone and the worst thing I've ever done to myself. I'm still paying. This year, there was a license I applied for that I couldn't get because of a DWI resulting in an accident. Like, this is 15 years later. I'm still paying for this right now. Like, I paid my damn dues for this awful thing I did, you know? And there are still a few people, mutual friends we have, who still hold this over me, you know? Like, how dare you do that? And, you know, at this point, that kind of pisses me off because, like I say, I paid my dues. And I got hurt worse than anyone in this scenario. Now, I should have. It was my fault, you know. But, I mean, like, he's been able to repair. We're good. Hell, I talked to him not long ago as well. But, you know, this was definitely the worst thing I've ever done. And I hurt myself worse. And I'm still paying for it and will probably continue to have this brought up in future advancements I try to have in life forever. You know, it's non-expungible, at least at this point. I try every few years. They're just like, no, you know, piss right the fuck off. I thought this was at least worth telling this story because I think most people who go through this, they either don't want to tell the story or they want to paint it in a light where they weren't at fault. You know, I was at fault. I made a decision to take his vehicle when I was too hammered, a vehicle I shouldn't have taken anyways. Go riding with it, somehow get lost on the drive I've made 1,000 times.
End up in another state.
And into someone's home. So yeah, I winded up, you know, stitches, there was medical treatment, jail time. This is the absolute worst day of my life. That is until part 3.
Non-apologetic
Nonsense.